Hey, what's up guys? Welcome back. Kellen here with Droid Life. So we're still looking at the Galaxy S8. Obviously, we're going to have it in-house for a long time leading up to that full review. And hopefully you've gone back and already watched our unboxing of retail units like this guy. And of course, that special unboxing we did, which was the Unbox Your Phone experience that Samsung was kind enough to send over. Be sure to watch all that good info there. But now we know a number of you are getting the phone in your hands or you're considering it or whatever. We want to make sure that once you do, you know everything and you can get the most out of it from day one. So we like to do that by offering up a first couple of things to do. And so let's do that here. This is the first 10 things to do with your Galaxy S8. Now, before we fully dive in here, understand that when we're talking about the first 10 things to do with your S8, these also apply to the S8 Plus. They are the same phone, one's just bigger than the other. So whatever we tell you to do here, you're going to be able to do over there on the S8 Plus as well. All right, with that out of the way, the first thing we always like to show you, assuming your phone has one, is take advantage of that SD card slot. So the S8 and S8 Plus have a micro SD slot, and it holds up to 256 gigabytes of extra storage. So these guys do have 64 gig out of the gate, which is a lot, but why not add more if we're given the option? So up top here, SIM and SD card tray. We have a whole video on this if you want to really dive into it. In the box, you'll also find this dude right here. This is a SIM removal tool, or I believe it's called a eject pin or something like that. I call it a SIM removal tool, but either way, you'll find it in your box behind all the guides. So we just slide this pin right in here. It ejects the tray, which we then slide out. And so in here, you'll find a slot for your SIM card right here. And then over here is obviously where your SD card goes. So again, it holds up to 256 gigs of extra storage. This is a 128 gig card here in my hands, but that's all you do. You just drop it on there, put in your SIM, and slide these gently into the top of your phone because you don't want to lose anything in there or get anything stuck. And then once you do, you really give this a good rub up top to make sure it's fully in there and you're still water resistant and all of that good stuff. All right, so jumping through then into settings, one of the things that those of you from Samsung phones who have pretty much only ever used Samsung phones are going to find something new and interesting is this little part right down here. So we have on-screen navigation buttons, software navigation buttons, a new navigation bar, whatever you want to call it. In the past, you had a physical clicky home button, and then you had a back button over here, and then you had an app switcher button over here. That's the standard Samsung layout that we've had forever. That changes now. So you can actually tweak this a little bit. As you can see, I have a back button over here and my app switcher's over here. I made it do that. So let's talk about quickly how to do that. So we throw this down and jump into settings, and you will go into display. So if we go into display and we scroll down a little bit, you want to look for navigation bar. So tap navigation bar, and you've actually got quite a few little handy tricks to do in here. The most important one though is button layout. So button layout out of the box will come like this. So it'll come with back over here, app switcher here, and your home button in the middle. That's what Samsung people are used to. Android purists like me like it the other way. We like back over here because that's how Google's had it laid out for as long as I can remember. Samsung just has always decided to flip them. I'm not going to argue which is better. This is just what I prefer. Samsung people might prefer it over there, but that's where you would adjust that. Now, some other cool things here are you can unlock with the home button. So on the lock screen, the home button can always show, and depending on your security setup, which we'll talk about more in a second, you can actually long press that home button virtually from the lock screen, and it will unlock your phone. So you can see it there, and I just sort of long press that. It actually wakes my phone up, or unlocks it, if depending again on your security setup. So something to keep in mind. The other cool thing is here, they're allowing you to adjust the background color. So I have a white nav bar now. It was black a second ago, now it's black again, or it could be this slate color or pink or gold or whatever. If you don't like any of those colors, Samsung's actually letting you go into a full color wheel and decide to change that color, whatever. Now, this will only show this color when you're in specific apps. If we go back home to the home screen, that's transparent, and so you're not going to have this nasty green at all times, but you can adjust this essentially to whatever you want. I'm going to leave mine sort of this grayish color, but you can adjust that. You can do the unlock the home button, and you can adjust the layout, something definitely to keep in mind. All right, from there, let's talk a little bit about how to launch the camera really quickly. So for, again, Samsung users who have been with Samsung for a really long time, you used to launch it by double tapping that home physical button, but we don't have that any longer, so that doesn't work. But what you do have is this. You have a side power button. So they've switched this, which is essentially the Android default at this point, but you just double click that and it launches the camera. And from there, you can then snap all the pictures you want, and you can do this from anywhere. So if the phone's locked like this, you can double click and that launches the camera. You saw me do it from my home screen, but you could even do it from, say, in Chrome. Just Double click that, launches the camera, and it's just as quick, I think, as the home button, and your thumb is sort of always there if you're holding the phone anyway, so it's just a quick way to do it. From there, let's talk a little bit about security, and this is another area that may differ a little bit for current Samsung users. So you used to have a fingerprint reader right down here on the bottom. You'd click that little home button, then it would scan your finger and you would just move on. So Samsung moved it to the back. Now we've talked quite a bit about this already, but this placement up here, it's not the best. It's hard to reach. I'd also make the argument that it may not be the best fingerprint reader I've ever used, and that's within like 24 hours already coming to that sort of minor conclusion. But either way, it's back there now. So we need some other ways, because that's just going to be probably frustrating over the long haul. So what we're going to do is set up a few things. So Tim and I have sort of come up to this nice mix of, you can see right here, I have a pattern set up, fingerprints, and face recognition. So Samsung is doing this facial recognition thing, which maybe isn't the most secure thing on the planet, but it does work pretty well. And if you couple it with fingerprints and pattern and smart lock, which I'll also show you, it's not a bad little setup. So I have mine set up to unlock with a pattern if I need to. I can also use the fingerprint reader, and then we'll also look at my face and try to unlock if it recognizes me. So face recognition is in here. That's where you would walk through and recognize your face. Fingerprint scanner is there. That's where you would walk through and scan a whole bunch of fingers if you want. You could even use the iris scanner if you want, although face recognition seems to be working fairly well. And then smart unlock, I'll show you in a second. So how this would work if this is all set up is I could use the fingerprint reader, and I just put my finger over that, and you can see there it went ahead and unlocked. The issue there is trying to get your finger on there properly each time. The next thing though is if I have face unlock, you just wake the phone, get in there and just look at it so it's close enough to your face that it can read it in good enough light or whatever, and you can see it's actually pretty quick. So I'll try to show you that one more time. See that right there? It went from being locked to unlocking pretty quickly, and I didn't touch anything other than the side button to wake it, and then it scanned my face. Very cool. Now, if I don't want to deal with any of that, and I want to say maybe just long press on, don't know where that button went. If I want to just long press on the home button there, I can do that as well. That's always, I don't know why always on display is not showing up, but either way, you can set it up as long as you have smart lock set up to go ahead and bypass everything by just long pressing on that bottom area. And so smart lock is an option where you can dive in and you can tell it to do a whole bunch of things like unlock every time I'm at home, or if I'm connected to Bluetooth, or it listens to my voice, or it recognizes it's on my body. So again, the combination of all of these has made for, I think so far, a pretty good thing. I can pattern swipe, I can fingerprint, I can use my face, or because I'm just at home all the time, I have it set up to be unlocked while I'm at home and then securely locked while I'm away. I hope all that makes sense, and I know that's a lot of stuff, but security is just a big thing, and we want to make it the easiest big thing on your phone. Continuing on there, always on display is something I just mentioned going away, and it looks like I had toggled that. But so I'm still in lock screen and security in my settings, and that's where you're going to find always on display. It's just a really cool feature that shows you at all times, if you want it to, clock, incoming notifications, your battery percentage, the date, and then you can even have it show that home button down there, which again, you can use to wake the phone and unlock it fully if you want. So you'll find that here, you can toggle that on. There are some settings though, not a ton, but in here you can get some different clock styles. Like I just went with the vertical clock, but you can get an analog clock or a dual time zone or a calendar, or you can put a picture on there. You could just do an edge sort of clock over here as well. I have it set to show always. If we tap on content to show, this is where you can customize a couple more things where you can have it show that home button and the clock and information, or just clock information, or just the home button. It's kind of up to you. I have it showing everything. Now, this isn't a big battery drainer, in case you're wondering. This is an AMOLED display, so you can fire up individual pixels and only show specific information. So it's not like your display is always fully lit and draining your battery. We've been using always on display for a long time. One of our favorite features, definitely something you should take advantage of. Let's back out though into some other settings. And we're going to talk about do not disturb. Now, this is just one of those things I like to tell everyone to get into. And if you look up here in your quick toggles, you should find it. And so we can tap on that a couple of times to get into do not disturb settings. Now, this is just one of those things I like to set up because it's a convenience thing that you set and forget. And I have mine set up to turn on do not disturb at 11:30 p.m. and then turn back off the next day at 6 a.m. So what that does is it just silences my phone. So as emails roll in, people send me text messages throughout the night, my phone isn't constantly buzzing and vibrating or sending off notification noises. Now, there are exceptions you can do where you can say repeat callers could get through in case of an emergency and somebody's calling you over and over again. again, those will eventually get through. You can set it up to have calls come through from your favorites. So calls are blocked basically by everyone, or not blocked, they're just silenced except for those who are your favorites, like say family, friends, whatever. You can have messages be allowed to come through, tasks and things like that on your calendar. So it's something you want to customize for sure, but it's one of those things that once you set it up, it just sort of happens on its own, which is cool. Moving on from there, I would suggest that everyone set up this blue light filter. So blue light filter, you'll also find a shortcut to it in your notification toggles, but I believe you'll find it in display settings if you want to go really find it. What is a blue light filter? It takes away the blue light from your phone, and it's really good in situations where you're in a dark situation or where you're trying to get ready for a bed at night or something like that. I believe there's actual scientific studies done where it shows that blue light will keep you awake at night. It may even do some damage to your eyes. I don't know. That I may have just made that up. Either way, easing strain on your eyes is a good thing to do at night, and a blue light filter does that. So if you turn it on, you'll notice my phone just kind of goes orange. And it's not that it was super blue before, it's just now trying to take those blues out of it. You can adjust how strong you want it to be. So if you go all the way down, it almost looks normal, and you can sort of adjust it. It gets yellower, more orange. I like to crank it all the way up. This is one of those things too, though, that you can toggle on up here if you want, but you can also schedule this thing to come on at, say, sunset to sunrise. It just automatically turns on and then back off. Or I have a custom schedule where it comes on at 8 p.m. and turns off the next day at 6:30 a.m. Kind of up to you, but it's one of those things you should definitely think about taking advantage of. From there, let's go ahead and dive into the Edge panel. Since this phone, it's not necessarily an Edge phone, it does have an Edge display, and Samsung's continuing on with their Edge panel that we've seen for years now. So it's on out of the box, and you'll notice it just sort of peeking there out the side, that little gray tab. So I just swipe that, and that launches into my Edge panel, which gives me some quick shortcuts to a whole bunch of stuff. So I have mine currently set up, sort of. I have Smart Select here, which is a way to capture things or create animated GIFs of just about anything that's on the screen, which is really cool. And I'm just kind of a nerd, so I like fun stuff like that. But you can swipe over, and I have People Edge, which is shortcut to people I make contact often. I've even done the quick tool section right here where you can do a ruler if you want, so I can measure things. There's a flashlight shortcut, and then there's a compass in there. So those are just some tools that I thought might come in handy, so I've set that up. Swipe over, I did add a Yahoo Sports panel, although I haven't set that up yet. But you can customize all this stuff, and if it sounds like something interesting that you may get used to using, you may as well set it up as well. So the first time you do, just swipe it out. In here, there is a settings button at the bottom, and this is where you'll find all of your different panels. So you can uncheck things if you don't want them. You can check things if you do. Like you could do app shortcuts. You can do some news and reminders and device maintenance stuff. And there's actually quite a few different panels in here. If you don't like it at all, you can just turn it all the way off right there with that button. There are additional things you can download. If you tap download, there's alternate panels that people have created, Samsung's created, whoever else has just added. There's actually quite a bit of stuff in there, from free to paid stuff. Here's even a Giphy Edge panel if you want to. So that stuff's all in there, and you just kind of want to go through and customize this stuff. You can reorder them as well. You can change the handle settings. So this is where you actually adjust where you want this. You can decide if you want it to be really big or really small in case you're hitting it too often. You can switch it from the left to the right if you want. There's just some stuff you can do in here, make it more transparent so it's not constantly overlaying everything, and even if it vibrates or whatever. So it is something you can do, and then of course you can drag it to whichever height you want. So Edge panel, definitely something to take a look at. It just adds that functionality. I'm not a huge user of it, but I know a lot of people do really enjoy it. All right, so the next thing I would say is jump into settings and consider some themes. So Samsung's done a really good job of building up their theme store, which includes wallpapers and icons and full themes. And so you find that in settings and then wallpapers and themes. And in here, you'll see at the bottom, there is a wallpaper section, themes section, icons, and always on display, so you can even download some custom versions of those. But if you just dance into themes here, you can scroll through, and there are dozens and dozens, if not hundreds of different themes to choose. In order to get them to work, you do have to download them. Some are free, some are paid, but you can find plenty that are free. So if I wanted this ugly golden black thing, for example, I tap on it, and I can scroll through to see what the preview would look like on my phone. And then if I want it, you just tap download down here, it downloads it, and then you'll be able to apply it once it's finished. But it's one of those cool things you can do to really customize your phone, sort of set it up to being well, your own personal beast of a little device. So there's trials even on some of these paid ones, but definitely something to look at. And if you just want new icons and you like the actual theme that Samsung gives you, this would be a good place to look. And then the always on display stuff. You may as well go through here as well and just find some cool stuff to get that custom setup on your lock screen. And finally, the final of the first 10 things to do is let's talk a little bit about Bixby, removing the panel, using Google Assistant, whatever you want to do. So your phone has a couple of assistants. You have Bixby, which is Samsung's new assistant, and then you have Google Assistant, which is Google's assistant. So Bixby has a dedicated button over here. You can press that and it will fire into Bixby, and you can see up top it says Hello Bixby, and it's sort of like a Google Now like card style system where it shows you weather and your calendar, and if you've taken pictures, it does show that, which is kind of cool. It'll show reminders if you use Samsung for reminders, but you can even have it show like trending things on Twitter and Facebook and then get news bits and stuff like that. It's actually not a bad panel, and it was pretty panned initially, but I don't think the panel itself is that bad. It's definitely more reliable than HTC's whatever their thing was called, Blink Feed. The other thing it does though is it uses the camera to do some things, and there was supposed to be a camera shortcut up there, I believe, but I'm not finding it, so we'll just launch into the camera to also use Bixby. So this little sort of eye icon, if you can see that there, is actually Bixby. So if I tap on that, it will fire up Bixby. And so I can use the camera here, and we'll just point out this S8 box. So it scans whatever's on your screen, and then essentially what it tries to do, so we'll let it do that, work its little magic. And then you can click on either shopping over here on the right, and it will shop for whatever it scans if it didn't find anything, which is funny. Or you can tap on image, and it'll just go to try to find images of whatever you found. It's okay. I think it could kind of be handy if you're out shopping and you want to maybe price compare with stuff online or not. Overall, though, Bixby is sort of half-baked. It was supposed to have a whole bunch of voice interaction technology behind it, which Samsung says isn't ready yet, and maybe later this spring. It's not right now. So right now, Bixby is essentially this panel and then that stuff within your camera. You can decide if you want to use that or not. If you don't, if you just want to use Google, you can see I've set up a Google shortcut that launches into my Google Now. So my Google Now is available right there. And then from there, if I want to use Google Assistant, you just long press on the home button. That fires up Google Assistant, and then you can ask Google Assistant whatever you want to do. So if you want to ask the weather or do whatever, you do have access to Google Assistant. And again, that's just a long press on the home button. And if you want Bixby, you just click the Bixby button. So there's some stuff here. There's some assistants you need to decide on. If you don't want that Bixby panel over there, you can actually pinch on your home screen and slide over, and you can actually turn that off. And so then that panel isn't there. If you try to swipe over, you can still launch Bixby with the Bixby button. You can't really turn Bixby off, although we're going to try to figure out how to do that for you. But that's it. I know this is a long video for the first 10 things to do, but this phone has a lot going on. This is a big change for a number of Samsung users, I believe, just because this button or this area down here has changed so much. So either way, we've got more coming, tips and tricks, all sorts of stuff, a camera review, full review, lots going on with the Galaxy S8. So if you guys have comments, questions, or there is anything in particular you want us to test, let us know. Otherwise, we're Droid Life. Peace.